Hi everybody and welcome to Learn Livestreaming Live. My name's John Lacey and today on the show we're going to be talking all about microphones for live streaming, all the options that are out there and some of the things you might want to keep in mind, especially in terms of mounting options and just being aware of the space around you. But we are going out live to all the various places, but that said, I've got to do something in the back end that I almost forgot about, or I will not be able to see your chat messages. So let me just click a button over here right now. But if you are watching live, let me know where you're watching from. We are going out to various places today, so hopefully you'll be joining us and we can talk about microphones. So that's what's happening today. I must admit I was a little bit nervous because I want to sort of demonstrate something for you a little bit later on, which it's one of those things that maybe we shouldn't be doing everything live. Maybe we shouldn't do everything live. That's just too much can go wrong when you're demonstrating new gear live. But I'm going to try and do it anyway. So, Saeed says hello from Germany. Congratulations on 666 subscribers. So yes, we did kind of reach that number during the week. I think it might have even said 667 this morning, but those numbers do seem to vary quite a bit. But today we're talking all about microphones. Let me know in the chat where you're watching from. I'd love to hear from you. So let's get stuck in because there's potentially a lot to know about microphones. But before we even get to the microphones, and we're going to talk about audio interfaces as well and all kinds of wonderful stuff and how we can work with audio in OBS Studio as well. So that's coming up on today's show, but I guess the first thing to keep in mind is to actually think about your space itself, because, and I think we all have had some version of this experience, but if you're in a room that has wooden floorboards or tiles, that space is going to reverberate quite a lot. So you're going to be capturing a lot of the room noise, and that's not always a problem, but especially if you're trying to record in a bathroom, that's going to be very difficult for people to really understand what you're saying. And sometimes one of the best things you can do is sort of physically move the mic a little bit of the room sound and more of you. There is a point of diminishing returns even with that though, so keep that in mind as well. But I'm really curious, like, what kind of microphones are people using at the moment? Do you use any sort of audio interface? Let me know in the chat. I feel like Saeed's told me in the past what he's purchased, and I can't recall off the top of my head all of the details, but maybe he can let me know. That would be really, really awesome. But I guess in terms of microphones themselves, and again, you don't have to get expensive microphones. We'll talk about some of the cheaper options that are out there as well. But in terms of the types of microphones that you will encounter from time to time, we have dynamic microphones and we have condenser microphones. And generally speaking, condenser microphones require an additional power, and they do pick up those higher frequencies, which can be really, really good if you're recording music, if you're recording singing vocals, but it can be less great if you're just doing spoken word stuff, or maybe that your audio, your studio space isn't sort of treated acoustically. And then we have dynamic mics, which are sort of passive mics. They don't require any external power source for the most part, and they will just capture whatever they capture. So Saeed's saying that he's been using the Shure MV7 for about 2 years. Awesome. So I guess if we, and I haven't tested this, so hopefully it's working okay, but I guess we'll find out in a second. I'm gonna go look at some websites as we discuss some of this as well. So first of all, I'm just on the Rode website here, which is rode.com. If we go to the show filters options, we have a whole bunch of different options here. So if we go to the transducer type, we've got condenser, we've got dynamic, and we've got ribbon. Ribbon is so outside of the scope of what we're talking about today, I'm not even going to worry about it too much. But generally speaking, probably what you're looking for as a live streamer is some kind of dynamic microphone. So let's just click on this one, and it'll update the results for us. And you've probably seen a lot of these microphones out in the wild as it is. Certainly the pod mic was a very popular one. I've actually got the PodMic USB over here, which I'll talk to you a bit more about in a second, which is sort of a newer version of the one that is on the screen right now. We've also got the Procaster. We've got the Reporter, which is actually a really interesting one. It's very much for that reporter on the street type of affair. and I think it's an omnidirectional microphone as well. And we've got the pod mic USB, which is what I just showed you, although here it's actually in white, but it does come in different colors, which is really, really cool. All right, so that's cool. We've also got over on the Shure website, we've got a similar arrangement here. We can look at the transducer type. We'll go with dynamic again, and we'll wait for this to update. So the MV6, hello Frozen Fusion 365. Thank you for being here. Great to have your company. Talking about microphones today, and so Said said the MV7, which was the one that he had, which I'm assuming is different to the MV7 Plus, but we've got a whole bunch of these. Obviously, the SM7B is, and I say obviously, I don't know if you can see that particularly well right now because of the dark back. In fact, if oh, okay, that's not good. I'm gonna have to fix that, but that's okay. And Frozen Fusion is an Esto, so that's really, really awesome. Great to have your company. All right, so we've got these different microphones that are out there. Let's actually just see if we can search for the MV7. And I know they've got a few variations of this as well. Quite a number of different options. You might have to tell me which that's really interesting because I don't know. The thing about microphones generally is that they're named, and a lot of audio gear especially, and cameras for that matter, there's a lot of codes, a lot of numbers, a lot of different things in there, which is incredibly annoying. So it may be difficult to know exactly what you're working with, but I guess in some ways we've got those two options, and I'm going to switch back to this one. It's a bit annoying that my filter, I'm going to have to do something here, and it's really annoying me. So anyway, this is the joy of live. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and I've actually got another demonstration for you later on. I'm a little scared of that one as well, but in fact, what I might do, I'm gonna have, yeah, that is so annoying. I'm going to have to figure that out, which is kind of annoying, but I'm going to throw to a promo really, really quickly, and unfortunately it's probably going to be a little bit too quick for my purposes, but let's let's just give it a go.
Hi, I'm John Lacey, and in Build a Presentation Muscle, I want to talk about finding your voice, refining and sharing your message, using tools and technology to share that message, and looking after yourself as a creator.
Okay, so that's a little promo for my podcast. I'm still sort of tinkering in the background. This is the joy of doing things live and not checking everything. It's very, very annoying, and it's kind of my own fault, and I kind of need to go back to something different to even adjust this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my filters, and I'm going to go to this back to normal option, and I'm going to get that transform, and hopefully that will fix that problem. Okay, sorry about that. I'm going to turn off studio mode now. Hopefully everything will be fixed with that right now. So let's go back to comments. Okay, so here we go. This is where the confusion came from for me a little bit. So, and I need to be on this one over here. So Said writes, they don't sell it anymore. There is now the MV7 Plus and the MV7i that came out last week or so. Okay, awesome. Thank you for clarifying that. It's really good to know. Ernesto writes, I have the Rode Pod mic, the Shure MV7, the SM7B, and they all sound great with good mic technique. Yes, and I think that's the thing. No matter which microphone you get, you're going to have to spend a little bit of time making sense of it, trying to get the best out of it as well. So that's a really good thing to keep in mind. But I guess the other thing that I really wanted to unpack here in terms of the microphone types is the connection types. So how are you physically connecting this to your computer? And there's a whole bunch of different connectors, but I guess the main ones we'll focus on today are XLR, which are the 3-pin connections that are really probably very familiar to a lot of people that have been using audio gear for years, but we also have USB options these days, and that can make your life really easy if you just have to plug in one microphone from the microphone to the computer via USB port and you're good to go. The great thing about this is these days you don't really need to choose between those, because a lot of the mics are actually coming out with options that that give you a little bit of both. And I kind of alluded to the fact that I've got the PodMic USB here before, and again, I'm not sure. In fact, there's a little plug actually covering the XLR, because I use this on a different computer and I don't think I've ever used the XLR version, but let me take that off so I can show you. And again, the lighting is probably going to be a little weird, but at the top we've got the XLR connection, and just on the side over here we've got the USB. So the great thing about that is it gives you options. So if you're at home and you've got your audio interface and you're good to go, you can work that way. But the other great thing about that is if you can take this on the road with you. Just set it up with a desk stand and you'll be good to go. The other thing that is nice, and Saeed sort of alluded to this in the chat, and I'll read his comment in a second, is that this has this pop filter that physically comes off. So you can talk into the microphone just like this, although you might be in danger of plosives, and that was certainly a problem for a lot of people with the original PodMic. But we can actually just slide this thing on, twist it into position, and we're good to go. And if you're a little vain, these actually come in a variety of colors these days. So, you know, this is the black default, but there are all kinds of options out there that you can try as well. So Saeed writes, I use the MV7 with the Shure SM7B pop filter, make a little difference with the plosives. Yes, I've heard that. That's a popular technique for a lot of people. Okay, so I guess the other thing, and my clock has disappeared, so I'm just going to bring that up again so I can see that I'm making good time. So if you do actually have an XLR microphone, or you want a number of different XLR microphones, you will need some sort of audio interface to bring that audio into your computer. There's a whole bunch of different ones out there. I'm still using the original Rodecaster Pro. And it works really well for me, but I know there are Scarlett interfaces out there as well. There's all kinds of things. I used to use one from Yamaha. In fact, I say used to. It's still on another computer in my house, so it is still there. It still works beautifully. It's a wonderful thing. I'm just So, but essentially, what we can do, and I'll just do my screen share thing again. So the Rodecaster Pro, and this is the original one. There is a second version which is more update. In fact, it says it up here. A newer version exists. I'll show you that in a second as well. But essentially, this one in particular is kind of its own little mixing board, and it also has sound pads, and it can bring in Bluetooth audio, so you can literally ring somebody up on the phone and have a conversation with them, which is really cool. I think it should so this shows us the back of the unit, which is really cool. We've got 4 XLR inputs. We can connect via a phone in a fairly old-fashioned way, with sort of a little jack there, and we've also got USB to connect to the computer. If we can compare this with the Rodecaster Pro 2, which is the newer version, again, it looks similar. I believe it's a lot smaller in size, takes up less desk room, but essentially we've got those 4 inputs. We've also got a second USB option, so you can connect it to the computer, but you can also connect it to a phone or another unit, and that's really cool as well. If we look at the Focusrite options, I don't know that any of these were actually the one I was looking for. So Focusrite, let me just have a quick look over here. And these are in different generations. I will allow all cookies, or otherwise we won't be able to see anything at all. But essentially, it's a different form factor. But essentially, the idea is the same. We've got these inputs, we've got some outputs, and we can connect to the computer. And that's as sort of as elaborate as it really needs to be. And depending on what you're doing, I guess the other thing that's probably worth noting for our discussion today is the Rodecaster Pro does have some audio options in it in terms of compression, in terms of a little bit of EQ and noise gates and that kind of thing. And I just want to mention that because I am actually using that today. And you know, I'm going to show you a different microphone, probably right now. Actually, let's just do it right now. So I'll go to this one here. So I bought myself a little toy, and it came during the week. It's actually the Rode Wireless Micro, and this thing comes in its own little charging case, which is really beautiful. And I've literally, like, I've already got it on my shirt here. I don't know if you noticed that, but it comes with a unit which, in my case, connects via USB-C. There is also a Lightning connection for some older iPhone users as well. But essentially what you do is you can connect the, and again, my lighting is probably not great for demonstrating this, but essentially you connect one unit to your phone, you connect the other to yourself. The minute you sort of take it out of the wireless case, it actually is on. And then you can record to your phone or your computer. So I've got it on right now. I'm hoping it hasn't gone into any kind of standby mode. I don't think it's actually got that functionality. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to press a rope button on the Stream Deck, and you're going to hear the wireless audio. I should say, first of all, this is like a third of the price of this microphone you're currently hearing me in. And also, this has a lot of processing on it in the way that the wireless micro won't. But I just kind of want to mention it because it's a great option, especially if you're sort of shooting on location. And the great thing about this is it actually has a fairly good distance. So just to test that it actually was working, I kind of connected it, and I put the phone in one end of the house, and I went to the other end of the house, and I just said some things in there just to make sure it was definitely picking up the right microphone, and it did. So without any further ado, he says nervously as he presses the Stream Deck button, this should now be the wireless microphone audio, wireless micro audio. And I'm sure it doesn't sound nearly as good as the Shure SM7B, but again, keep in mind that this doesn't have any processing on it at all. And, you know, if you were to record something, you could go in and actually do that editing and that processing and post-production later on. But the great thing about this, and I guess the other thing I didn't mention is it's sort of got a clip, but it's also got a little magnet, so you can connect it to your shirt in that way as well. So that's what that is. I actually can't hear that audio right now. So say it is saying the wireless one is only on my left speaker. Yeah, so that's a setting I probably needed to fix. But I'll go back to the Rodecaster audio now. It's probably going to be a little bit weird switching between those. So yeah, Rode does actually have their own Rode Central software. In fact, now I'm getting an error message that it can't actually connect to it. So I won't worry about that too much right now. But the thing about that is because you do get the two mic units in this thing, you can either have them both come in to the stereo, or you can have one pan left and one pan right. And I probably turned on that second setting and haven't changed it back. But again, just wanted to let you know that is potentially an option, and that can be quite a nifty thing. And I mentioned that because somebody on LinkedIn does actually go out and does a weekly video from her garden, and it looks amazing. And she sort of asked me about some wireless microphones, and this was all of 200 Australian dollars. So that's really incredibly cheap. So I just wanted to mention that that's a new toy in my world, but I just wanted to have a bit of a play with it. So I really enjoyed that as well. All right, and again, I'm really curious. It's one of those things too, as a single solo live streamer / podcaster, I only need one microphone. Like, I really only need one microphone, but I own so many. And I can't even find them all at the moment. I've got things like the video mic from Rode, I think it's the NTG version. I've got a Shure SM. I shouldn't do this because it totally ruins the illusion of my green screen. But just off screen, I actually have the Shure SM58, which is a great little microphone as well. And I can't sort of negotiate that one into the frame right now, so just take my word for it. As mentioned before, I've got the pod mic USB. This is really, I love this. This is so cool. And I've got it on a different computer, which I don't use very often, but I'm always amazed at how good this is. Like, this is kind of amazing. So I've got that one. I think actually going back to the Rode site, just trying to remember all the there are a couple of other ones that I had as well. Just struggling to remember them all. I don't even know where they are in the house. I need to organize stuff better. I think so I've got the Procaster as well. I do have a Rode NT1A, which is actually a condenser microphone. And if you go back far enough into the YouTube channel, you'll see that I used to use it quite a lot. The only sort of problem I had with it, well, first of all, it is a condenser, so it is potentially picking up more of the room sound than I perhaps would have liked. But the other thing too is it kind of needed to be mounted in a cage, and that physically took up so much space on the screen. I'm really curious now, while I'm talking about that, if I can actually just find an example of this and show you. And I'd have to go back quite a long way to find this probably. It's a really beautiful mic, and it's a great mic for sort of singing purposes as well. So if I go back to one of the old coffee and content ones, perhaps, that's really trippy. All right. Okay, that's a different microphone again. I've got too many microphones. This can be a problem. If you're a gear enthusiast, this can definitely be a problem. So just keep that in mind, first of all. But like I said, if you're a single person just talking, just get one microphone that you like the look of and the sound of, probably more importantly. And you don't need to hoard them all. But that said, if you do like to experiment, I don't think there's anything sort of inherently wrong with this. Okay, so I have actually found an example of this. So let me just share it really quickly. And it actually doesn't look too bad. So this is an old video from 2 years ago. This is the Rode NT1A microphone. I kind of forget that when I share stuff on YouTube, it probably shows you all my YouTube recommendations, and that's probably a lot more than I want you to know about me. But you can see that we actually have this cage here, and it does take up a lot of space, I'm not going to lie. So that's kind of the reason I moved away from that one. All right, so let's not dwell too much on the past. Let's talk about, I guess, a bit of OBS stuff as well. Actually, no, we'll get to that later. What we'll do first, let's talk about mounting options, because at the moment you will see that I've got this microphone arm. And again, I know this is a little triggering for some people out there, but my green screen limitations mean that you're only seeing a very small portion of that. And I don't lose any sleep over that. I know some people are deeply concerned about that, but it is literally just cropped out of the frame. I don't have a problem with that. But the great thing about these microphone arms is that, one, you're not touching the microphone, or you shouldn't be holding the microphone. I see a lot of people on TikTok do that. And it's not a great look, although sometimes, you know, that content has such a short lifespan that maybe, you know, they don't need anything more elaborate than that. But the great thing about this, first of all, is I can bring it towards me, but I can also push it away from me. So I probably use this microphone, I don't know, 6-7 hours a week. And when I need it, I bring it closer towards myself. But when I don't need it, I just push it to the side and it's out of the way. And that in itself is amazing. And I kind of encourage a lot of people to sort of think about mounting things in a way that gets them off the desk, because that can be really, really useful as well. So Sayed writes that he's got the Elgato Wave mic arm LP, so it's the low profile, but there is now a pro version which solves some of the issues. Yeah, I do actually have one of the low profile options, the white one. Again, it's on a different computer in the house. I like the idea of it, and my other workstation here isn't really optimized properly. Like, nothing is really at the right height for me. And I do find that a little bit challenging from time to time. But I don't think there's a problem with it conceptually. And I guess, you know, I've kind of mentioned the thing that some people find really troublesome about my streams is that I do sort of crop off this mic arm really arbitrarily. And people hate that. I don't know why they hate it so much, but they really do. And there have been times when I've been tempted to just like bring in all on the mic arm or reposition everything and move the green screen. And I can do it, but I just think if, you know, if that's your main problem with my content, then, you know, maybe my content's just not for you. I'm not really sure where I was going with that. Oh, yes. So the other thing about that is that some people don't want their mics in shot. And I guess that's a personal preference, but for me, the closer the mic is to your mouth with some exceptions. I'm sure there's a point at which this isn't true. But essentially, you know, you want it closer to you and further away from things that aren't you, essentially. The microphone is capturing you and not capturing the reflections off the wall or whatever that's around you. So I know some people do use the shotgun microphones, the video microphones, and actually have those out of shots. I have played a little bit with my video NTG mic from Rode. I never really figured out how to do it well. It never sounded quite as good as the Shure SM7B. And a part of me is like, I would rather have the mic in shot than not have it in shot. But the other thing that I did do at one point was I actually got a green windshield cover for this, and I chroma keyed that out. But again, it was just hard because I still needed to have the microphone a certain distance away from me to maintain that visual illusion. Okay, so that's interesting. So I guess we're talking about the Elgato low profile wave arm. So Ernesto writes, it didn't hold my SM7B where I wanted it. And that's the thing, I never got around to it, but I was really tempted to bring that arm into this desk and actually try it with this microphone, but I just haven't had a chance to do that yet. So, you know, there are factors that you'll need to try out, and everything's kind of relative to your desk and your setup and your heights. And I mean, one of the good things about this desk is that it is a sit-stand desk, so I can press a button and you know, adjust the height, which is really nifty. But you do need to sort of test these things out. And I guess the other thing I just want to mention too is, despite the fact that I own way too many microphones, this isn't really a gear channel. This isn't a review channel. I don't really have the technical knowledge to sort of produce that kind of content. And I should say too, last week on the OBS Obsessed show, somebody left me a comment saying that my audio was really just much too soft. And I think that person is probably right, and I will attempt to investigate that moving forward. But right now, I'm more worried about distorting than I am being a little bit soft. I'd rather you physically turn up the volume than me distort, because we did have that one show of the video and live streaming show where Windows just changed my audio settings and it was a disaster, and everything I said was just screechingly hot. And I'd rather err on the side of caution in that regard, I think. The other thing, like, I do have, and again, I just physically can't bring this forward, but if you saw the artwork for this particular episode, you'll see that I did actually have the Shure SM58 on a different kind of stand, which is like a floor stand. And again, how about we go back to these websites and we'll talk about this a little bit. So if I go back to the Rode ones, and I'll go to the accessories, and let's go down to stands and bars. So again, I like Rode, I like Shure. I think they're both great companies. I use their gear for different things. We've got all these different stands, and depending on what your mic is and where you want it positioned, and the other thing too is how heavy is your microphone, because you know, the NT1A condenser microphone, I was just wondering if I had it handy. I don't have it handy, but I kind of used a desk. In fact, I think it is literally this one here, this DS1 desktop microphone stand. So I put that microphone on this stand, but the problem is that microphone weighs a lot. And the kind of the very low tech thing that I did at that time in my life was I bought a weight like for bodybuilding purposes. and I think it was like 7 kilos or something, and I put it on the bottom of this mic stand just to act as a counterweight. And that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it actually worked pretty well at the time. So you do need to be mindful of how heavy that mic is. And even, to be really honest with you, even this PodMic USB, this is a surprisingly heavy mic. Like there is some serious metal built into this thing. So you'd probably want to make sure that your whatever stand you end up using is actually robust enough to do this. But we've got the PSA 1 Plus, the PS 1A, which is actually what I'm using here. And I feel like I just had a plosive there, which is probably really annoying, especially on a episode where I'm talking about audio, but it is what it is. Essentially, this is what I've got, and I really like this arm. I think it's great. Like I said, bring it into the shop when you need it. When you're done with it, just move it away. It frees up so much space because you can bring it in when you need it. Because I guess the other thing with some of these, like these desk stands, you know, you really can't move those too far, especially if you've got a heavy microphone. Like it's just going to be in a particular place on your desk for the duration. So keep that in mind. But if we do, and I don't think I've got the Elgato site up, so let me bring it up. All right. So we'll go to the Elgato site. Again, they make some really good quality things. If we go into the Wave arms, so we've got the microphone arm, we've got the low profile and the Pro version now. If we check out the low profile, and again, I've actually got the white one on my other desk. It is very low, and I guess the thing is, like I set up this microphone with the Rode, what am I even calling this? The PodMic USB. I did set this up on this arm, and on one occasion, I did find the microphone actually fell off this arm, and it hadn't been used, hadn't been touched. So that was a little bit concerning. But again, this is kind of that thing where if you want to keep it low, if you want to keep it out of the camera shot, I don't know how well that would work. You'd really need to experiment with that a little bit. But it is potentially an option. And the great thing about this is it does sort of have these great cabling options. So you put the cables inside of the unit itself. There are some magnets which sort of click into place to hold those cables there. And it's pretty, it's quite a nifty idea really. And I don't have a problem with that. Again, I haven't had a chance to try it with this microphone. And I guess that's what Ernesto was reporting, is that it doesn't necessarily give you the flexibility for this one in particular. But again, it's probably something you'll need to try out for yourself. Okay, so I guess I've kind of gone over a number of different things, and I'm sort of curious, if you are looking out there, if you haven't contributed to the chat, do you own a microphone? Are you interested in getting one? And what are the things that you're potentially concerned about in terms of those microphones? Because I guess, you know, there are all kinds of accessories out there that you can do different things with. I might just show you the wireless micro page on here, just because this is my toy at the moment. So it comes in black or white and USB-C or Lightning, but essentially we've got that unit in the middle which connects to your computer or your phone. Again, keep in mind that this does connect physically to the bottom of your phone. So if you've got your phone on a particular mount or tripod, you really need to make sure the bottom of the unit is sort of free so that thing can go there. And then we've got the two microphones. So yeah, so that's pretty nifty. And again, it's funny, it's saying $259 here on the roadside itself, but I did get it for less than $200 new from a different shop. So look out for those deals. But yes, there's some fun stuff happening out there in the world. So I guess what we do need to talk about a little bit more is actually bringing audio into OBS. So let me switch over to my instance of OBS I've got over here. So I guess there are a few different things that you might want to keep in mind with audio in OBS. And if we look at the sources that are available to us, if I hit the plus sign down here in the sources doc, we've got application audio capture, which is technically in beta, but it works really, really well. And that's if I want to grab audio out of a particular piece of software. We've also got the audio input capture, which is essentially how I'm bringing in this microphone right now into my other version of audio, my other version of OBS, I should say. We've got audio output capture, so you can actually get output from something on your computer. And maybe with the exception of media source, which you could use to bring in pre-recorded audio. You could actually bring in sound effects. You could do that there as well. Those are really the options that we kind of want to think about. So in this example, if I was going with the audio input capture, which is how we generally bring in our microphones, I could give this one a name, and I could say, I'll say Rodecaster Pro. And really all we need to do is make sure we select the right device at this point in time. So in this case, I could go from my Rodecaster Pro stereo and I could bring that in. And you'll see now down here, I've actually got my Rodecaster audio and it's coming into OBS. And again, if you are a newbie to OBS, you want to make sure that the audio is in every scene you want, like the audio source in every scene that you want it to be in, because there's nothing worse than if you miss a scene and you switch to that scene and you suddenly lose all your audio. But what I might do, seeing as I've got it here, let's go in and add the input capture device again, and I'll say wireless microphone, wireless micro. And again, here, this one's coming up as desktop microphone wireless micro. So I can click OK, and you'll see that I've got both of these now. And the wireless micro is a little bit more into the yellow, and chances are I probably need to be, this is probably a better audio level, because I guess the thing about the Rodecaster is it is actually compressing my audio a little bit, so I could probably bring that up in volume. But again, the audio you're hearing is actually not the audio you're seeing necessarily here, because this is a second instance of OBS. But the thing I want to kind of draw your attention to, and I show everybody this all the time because I don't think people understand the audio mixer. So this is the audio mixer. You can reposition it, you can move it in different places. If you're not seeing it, just go up to the audio, go to the docks and make sure that it is there. So I could deselect it, and then I can just bring it back by going to docks and clicking on audio mixer. If we sort of click on any of these 3-dot hamburger type menus, we've got a whole bunch of options. We've got properties, we've got advanced audio properties, and we've got filters are probably the main one. There is this vertical layout thing, which I never use, but Soundproof is a big fan of. So if I click the vertical option, you'll see that they're now going vertically, and if I change that back and turn that off, they'll go horizontal again. So that's purely a personal preference, how you want to roll. But if we go in and we go to our advanced audio properties, we've got these options, and these are really important to know and understand. So first of all, we've got the volume itself. So if you wanted to make it louder or softer, you could certainly do that here. You can use these up and down arrows. You can actually put in a value in decibels. If you're not an audio engineer type person and you prefer to work in percentages, you can click on that one there, and then you can sort of just adjust that as a percentage number rather than a decibel number. We've got the mono options, and that's potentially what I probably needed to do for the wireless micro in the other version, because as Zaid noted that it was sort of coming in to the left channel only, but that's fine. So the balance, again, if you want to go left or right, again, for streaming, for podcasts, just keep that centered. Just keep that centered. Don't get too fancy with it. You're going to cause problems for people. And we've got the audio monitoring options. So again, monitor off means that the stream will hear it, the recording will hear it, and you won't hear it. Monitor only means the stream won't hear it at all. So if I click on this monitor only for Rodecaster Pro, you'll see down in the audio mixer, actually, okay, I was expecting that to kind of disappear, but that's a different thing. But essentially, monitor only means you would hear it, not the stream. And monitor and output would mean both of you hear it. And again, interestingly, for the Rodecaster Pro, there's really no, there's surprisingly little latencyy, there's surprisingly little lag. But if I do a similar thing over here for the wireless microphone, wireless micro, Actually, it's not too bad there either. That's interesting. All right, so I'm just going to do monitor off for both of these. So microphones, generally you won't want to hear yourself back because there will be a little bit of lag. But if you did have videos that had audio, if you did have sound effects, you'd probably want to make sure that you're actually monitoring those as well. So you'd use that monitor and output option as well. And then we've got tracks. So this is where it can get really powerful and it can be really flexible, but you kind of also want to make sure you don't make life too difficult for yourself. So if you are a complete beginner, just leave all of these selected. Because what can happen when you set up your recordings or your streaming options, you can say, hey, I only want to use tracks 1 and 2, and maybe not the other ones, which can be quite useful. But again, for most beginners, I would recommend you just ignore that entirely. So we've got those options there. If I wanted to bring in some just trying to think of a good example that I can do on the fly. I'm going to bring in an app. Just going to open an app on my computer, which hopefully will bring in some audio. So this, and again, you guys won't actually hear this audio, but it's just, I've got a MIDI keyboard beside me and I can sort of press keys on it and it'll make sound. But the reason I want to show you this one is because if you wanted to bring in that audio from that app specifically, you can actually go down and go to Application Audio Capture Beta and give this one a meaningful name. So I'll call it Analog Lab 4, which is the name of the software. And then I just want to search for the name of this file, this executable. One thing that is important is don't minimize this window because that can cause some issues. But if I go OK now, you'll see we've got the Analog Lab 4. Right now, I'm not doing anything to make it create audio. But if I press a key, you'll see that you've actually got a little bit of audio in those monitors. So again, if you wanted to adjust those monitoring options, you could go into Advanced Audio Capture. In this case, because I'm actually hearing the sound from the software itself, I probably wouldn't want it again. In fact, if I go monitor and output and press a key, there's just a little bit of delay. It's almost like a bit of echo or reverb has been added to it. So in this case, I'll just go monitor off. But it can be that easy to actually bring in audio from other places. And I know like LinkedIn audio rooms are a whole thing. And one of the problems with the old fashioned LinkedIn audio room was there was really no way to capture that audio if you wanted to save it and reuse it later on. So it could be possible that that might be a use case for that as well. All right. So those are some of the things that we can do in terms of OBS. I'm going to press this button and turn that off. Lynn writes, I don't have one and I'm thinking about it. Okay, awesome. So I guess there are some options that that are, I guess I would call entry-level microphones. And I can't remember the exact model number, but I'm going to look this up. The Q2U, I think, was the one that I got for Sam. All right, cool. So again, if we check this out, this one, just going to accept all the cookies and see what happens. So this is a USB and XLR microphone. So it gives you both options. In fact, if I click on this image down here, you'll see that you get those 3 pins that you use with an audio interface, but you've also got the USB up here. And it actually comes in this bundle with its own little desk stand, which can be good. But again, just think about how close you'll need this microphone to your mouth. It really depends on your options there. So this one, and I think like, I want to say this is about 100 Australian dollars, sorry. In fact, let me just look something up really quickly here. So this is the Samsung Q2U. So it does actually depend on where you're looking. In fact, I'm seeing it for like $126 Australian on Amazon. So it's a little bit pricier than I think it has been in the past. So maybe there is a bit of demand there, but you can actually buy this. In fact, this is the pack that it comes with. So you get the microphone, the stand, and you sort of get these accessories as well. And again, if you want to go back and watch any of those video and live streaming show episodes, that is generally the mic that Sam was using, and I got for him as a birthday present. It is a dynamic microphone, and the thing, when we started that show, Sam was using a condenser, and he's kind of streaming, or he was at that point in time, he was kind of streaming from his garage, which had been repurposed. And it captured too much of the room sound. So that is something to keep in mind. The other one, again, I haven't personally used this one, but I hear good things about it. It's the Audio Technica ATR 2100 X USB. Again, it sort of gives you that USB and the XLR options. I'm not really sure off the top of my... so $150. And again, that's probably Australian dollars because I'm on the Australian site. Said says, I've heard good things about the MV6 as a budget option. Cool. So let's go back and look at the MV6. So this is kind of like a quote unquote gaming microphone. So I'm guessing that's USB, but let's just see if we can suss that out. Show me the back of the unit. There we go. Yep. So USB, and it's also got some monitoring options, so you can actually connect your headphones into the back of this just to see how you sound, which can be quite useful. And I have a feeling, I could be wrong, does that light up or is that just a solid color? I'm not really sure. Anyway, like I said, this is not really a review channel as such, so you might want to do some of your own research as well. It is actually USB, OSB, what am I saying? OBS, you know, that software I like to use, it is certainly compatible with that as well. So there are lots of options out there, and I guess don't break the bank. As much as I love this microphone that I'm using right now, it is ridiculously expensive. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for this, and it was on special at the time, but it's still comically expensive. And for me personally, at that time, I just had the FOMO. Like, I saw everybody online using this particular microphone, and I was like, oh, I just need it. I've just got to have it. But the great thing about this microphone in particular is it's a very soft microphone. And because I'm someone who lives in the suburbs and there are always people mowing their lawns and using their heavy machinery, like that just happens 24/7. The great thing about this is even if they're only a few meters outside of my window, it won't generally capture that. The flip side of that is I did actually need to get a cloud lifter to boost the signal for the original Rodecaster Pro. It's not something you'll need if you're using a newer version of one of those devices from Rode. But I don't have a problem with that. It works really, really well. And it's treated me well. I guess the one thing I will say about this microphone is it does color the way I sound. It's not a particularly natural sounding microphone, but I don't hate the way it makes me sound. I think it actually works pretty well. And I think sometimes different mics will work better for different voices than others. And sometimes you just need to experiment and see where you end up. And that ATR model, so ATR 2100 X USB, that's a microphone I hear a lot of women in particular say that captures my voice really, really well. So that might be worth exploring. But I mean, there are lots of options out there. The great thing about decent audio gear and also, frankly, decent video gear is if you sound good, if it captures you well, that'll actually add to your confidence, and I think that's always an important thing to keep in mind. So, I don't recommend anybody run out and buy a $10,000 studio if you're brand new to any of this stuff. But by the same token, if you can afford to invest a little bit, I think it's definitely worthwhile. And I guess the other thing too is, and we spoke about boom arms a little bit, but I do find this is a place where it's possible to go onto Amazon and other sites and buy the cheapest thing known to man. But especially if you're quite animated, especially if you move your arms and your hands around a lot, there is a danger you'll smack the arm or the microphone, and at that point, the more heavy duty one you get, the better off you'll be, because it won't sort of leave you in that situation where it's bouncing around. And I'm not that person. I try to sit pretty still when I'm on camera, but I know some people definitely do that. And I keep teasing Sam about it, but he was the classic example. Like, he was always sort of smacking his microphone boom arm around, and it doesn't produce the greatest audio, so just keep that in mind. But anyway, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it. There's so much that we can do with audio, and this is really just a gentle introduction, but I appreciate all the chatter in the chat. That's been really wonderful. Thank you for your company again this week. OBS Obsessed will be back next week. I'm not entirely sure what I'll be talking about just yet, but keep an eye out on all the various places, and stay in touch. I'm hoping this button still works. Like and subscribe wherever you happen to be watching, and I look forward to talking to you again very, very soon. Take care, everybody.